I'm so humiliated. I didn't need a mirror to know my face was beet red.
I know I'm in no position to talk, but I wouldn't worry about it, to be honest. He wasn't trying to make you feel bad. He just worries about you, was all.
I know.
That's my good girl.
He gently stroked my hair as I slumped my shoulders. After a moment, I straightened myself up and looked over at him.
What's the matter?
Kaguya seems unruffled. How do you react? It's a good question. Do I ask if it bothers him? I mean, he's been unruffled by basically everything that has happened so far that we've witnessed. Like, being slapped by women doesn't faze him, forgetting women doesn't faze him. I guess that's not true. He has been fazed by the fact that she accepted his proposal. Not proposal. I'm getting ahead of myself. His, him asking her to be his girlfriend right after he broke up with another girl in front of her. He was a little fazed by that. But most of the time, he's not. I guess if we ask about his lip, it's like we care about how he is. I feel like showing concern for him, the person, maybe is the way to go. I'll see. We'll find out. Bad ending incoming? How's your lip? I started to reach out to touch it, then stopped myself.
Oh, I'm all right.
Grinning, Kaguya waved a hand dismissively. You sure? That punch was pretty recent.
Right you are. But, it was my fault, really.
Why don't you ever stand up for yourself?
What?
All these people keep hitting you, but you never fight back. You never protest. You just take it. That's what I'm saying. Granted, I'm not saying you should fight back, but it just worries me sometimes. I don't want you to bottle it all up inside.
You're a nice girl, Puppet.
No, I'm not. But I am your girlfriend, so it's only natural that I worry about you. Kaguya's eyes widened and he smiled softly. Yeah, he's like, you worried about me? Wow. I let out a sad sigh. Feels like you've got me wrapped around your little finger.
You reckon?
I do. I stopped short. Kaguya followed suit. Then, clasping my hands in front of me, I turned to face him, my head tilted. I gotta be honest, I'd much rather have you wrapped around my finger. That's what I'm used to.
Oh, I'm aware.
I was still in the honeymoon phase of the relationship, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world.
Shall we hold hands, Puppet?
Sure. I took his proffered hand and we set off. Now it felt like a date. The winter air felt nice and cool against my flushed skin. Okay, so we got half moon. Half moon. The moon looks really pretty tonight.
That it does.
Looking at the moon reminded me. Have you heard of the rabbit who lives on the moon?
A rabbit?
Yeah. Don't you see him up there?
Can't say that I do. Can you?
Nope. I guess it's kind of hard to see from here. Maybe it's because the moon's so far away, or maybe it's all the light pollution. But centuries ago, our ancestors could see an outline of a rabbit making rice cakes. Or so they say.
What, with a mortar and pestle?
Yep. Though I have to wonder why a rabbit would want to make rice cakes.
To eat them in it. They're quite Moorish.
You like rice cakes? I can't believe he actually said Moorish. That is so British. It's a bit Moorish.
I do indeed.
Interesting. Having acquired an exciting new piece of info, I fist-pumped internally. So, while we're on the subject of rabbits...
My mask.
Yeah, maybe you're a rabbit too.
If I was, I reckon I might just go back to the moon someday.
If you tried that, I'd do everything in my power to stop you. And I mean, everything.
You'd stop me going?
Darn right.
Well then, I wouldn't stand a chance against you, Poppet.
Sure, maybe Kaguya was just joking around, but to me, it felt like maybe he kinda meant it. He seemed so unassuming at first glance, but deep down, he was an enigma, constantly threatening to slip away into the night.
Oh right, here's an interesting tidbit. Stop me if you've heard this one.
What is it? I flinched, startled from my thoughts.
With those big, long ears, a rabbit can hear voices from miles away.
I blinked and tilted my head. It can?
It can indeed. That's how they learn all the deepest, darkest secrets.
Which emotion best describes your response to this? Pity or fear? That is terrifying that a rabbit knows my darkest thoughts. Are you giving me a hint as to how you pick up on the moods and inclinations of those around you? Well, not fear. I feel sorry for the poor thing having to hear all that negativity all the time. That must be really hard.
Hard for whom?
For the rabbit, of course. The secret teller will never find out they were overheard unless you tell them, but the eavesdropper has to live with that knowledge forever. That's why people keep secrets at all, because that knowledge can never be revoked. And on top of that, the rabbit can't choose not to hear it, right?
Right.
Which makes it even worse, since a lot of secrets are malicious in nature. Even if that malicious intent is directed at someone else and not them personally, that doesn't make it pleasant to hear. The moment you heard it, you'd cast judgment on the secret teller. And fall into despair.
Despair?
Why are all the games I'm playing dealing with despair right now? Am I just in a despairing mood? What is with this constant theme running through like 5 of my games right now? Yeah. I imagine the rabbit would come to hate himself.
Why is that?
He'd realized he carried those very same dark thoughts within himself. Put simply, he'd realize he was no different from the secret tellers he so reviled. At that point, I'd start plugging my ears or something.
Such compassion you have for one little rabbit.
I can't know for sure how other people feel, but I can at least imagine it. The social code dictates, treat others as you wish to be treated, but even then, there's no guarantee they want to be treated that way. Since we can't know what the other person is thinking, we have to observe them and make an educated guess.
Which is where communication comes in.
Sonotori! I shot on the finger guns.
But rabbits can't talk, you know.
Sure, but there are other ways of expressing yourself.
Such as?
Well, there's body language and facial expressions.
Rabbits don't have facial expressions.
Or maybe we just think they don't. Maybe we just need to spend more time with them to recognize them. Besides, you never know. They might write letters like we do.
You mean the exchange diary?
Exactly. And speaking of which, Kaguya, it's your turn tonight.
Right you are. Not to worry, I haven't forgotten.
He stopped short to stroke my hair. He likes doing that.
I'm honestly so glad I met you, Poppet.
Well, that was random.
It's hardly random if it's always on my mind, is it? You're just so adorable. My love for you grows with each passing moment.
I'm glad I met you too.
Yeah, glad to hear it.
I closed my eyes and gave myself over to the feeling of his palm against my hair, almost like I really was a bunny. When at last the warmth of his hand pulled away, I slowly opened my eyes once more. There I found Kaguya gazing tenderly back at me. Instantly I thought back to last night, and trembled, like a rabbit. Somehow I was embarrassed, happy, and a tiny bit fearful all at once. Just then...
Oh, it's the waitress.
Come on in! That's so funny. I was so startled by the familiar voice, I straightened my posture and blurted out a response, reflexively slipping into work mode. When I turned around, I found one of the cafe regulars standing there. That would explain why my brain defaulted to "come on in" of all things.
Good evening. Fancy running into you here. Are you all done with work for the day?
Yep, I just got off work. What about you? Are you on your way home? It would have been rude to blow him off, so I decided to make small talk.
Yeah.
Smiling stiffly, his gaze wandered to Kaguya beside me.
Who's this?
Oh, this is... I tried to answer, but Kaguya stopped me. Oh, Kaguya, just let me introduce you as my boyfriend. Don't worry about... He could have shot his shot. I mean, he did try to shoot his shot, this guy, but... He was interrupted by Cinderella. Yeah, you definitely have some kind of ability to know what people are thinking, intentions and stuff like that.
I'm a new hire who just started a few days ago. The name's Kaguya. You're a regular at our cafe, yeah? Hope to see you in sometime soon. Oh, I see. I haven't been by in a few days, so I had no idea. Well, hopefully you find some time to come see us. Right, Eureka?
Right. I smiled to hide my internal conflict. Why you do that? After we parted ways with the regular, we walked in silence for a while. How come... I wanted to ask, how come you didn't introduce yourself as my boyfriend, but the words wouldn't come? I knew he had intentionally avoided the subject in order to keep things professional, but I would have liked him to be at least a little protective of me around other guys.
Poppet, look! There's the fishmonger!
He changed the subject with eerily apt timing. Let's get in and get out quick so Cinderella doesn't make any more creepy jokes when we get back. And so I forced myself to let it go. For now. Interesting. That was Cinderella's reaction to his first fish stick. What do you call this? How is it? I stopped eating and looked at him expectantly. Good. I admit I wasn't excited to eat poor people food, but it's actually not that bad. Oh good, I'm glad you're still a snob. You really haven't changed much at all compared to most of the other guys. Not really. It's kind of comforting to have a center of gravity at in this game. Glad to hear it. They're so light and crunchy. Thus far, I've been making a lot of intricate dishes, so it was nice to have a more lazy dinner for a change. All thanks to Kaguya and Alice for giving me the idea.
Oh, I didn't do much. I reckon all the credit goes to Alice for his, feedback.
Wait, what? How did you know about that? Then it hit me. Oh god, you heard everything? While he and I were having our argument,
You two were having a hell of a time upstairs.
Ugh. Embarrassed, I buried my face in my hands. It's just... How many ways can Yurika be embarrassed in 24 hours? Honestly, I should have known they would have heard us, given how loud Alice was screaming. Wait. Does that mean they all heard me whimpering and groaning too?
We were trying to have a serious conversation, but your antics totally killed the mood. Good thing I was wrong about what happened.
No laughing at the dinner table!
Sure thing.
God! I pouted at him. Then I glanced over at Kaguya and realized he wasn't eating. Do you not like it, Kaguya?
Oh, no, I like it fine. It's very good.
And yet he's barely eaten any of it? You don't have to force yourself to eat it, you know?
Oh, that's not it. Then what the hell is it? This was your idea. Right. Look, pal, can you wipe the stupid smirk off your face for 2 seconds? You're pissing me off. Relax, mate. I'm not your mate, bro!
At the rate we were headed, Cinderella was only getting more furious. How do you handle Cinderella's anger? Scold him, change the subject. Well, I mean, Kaguya is the master of changing subjects, so I assume we should probably change the subject. Anyway, how about those, Blue Jays? I immediately changed the subject. So, is Snow White really not going to eat with us?
Nah, he doesn't eat.
And he hasn't starved to death somehow?
I guess not. He's alive, isn't he?
Okay, but seriously though, how has he survived without eating? I turned to Kaguya so as to include him in the conversation.
We really owe you, Poppet.
Huh?
Honestly, he's doing himself a disservice by not eating this wonderful meal. Agreed. But I can sort of understand the reluctance to eat it.
Huh? How so?
Sometimes I have to wonder, am I a burden, staying here and eating their food as well? Going by that logic, wouldn't you feel equally bad for wasting the food we prepared for you? I suppose so. Anyway, I'm sure Snow White has his reasons. I reckon it's best to just leave him be.
Yeah, we'll get into that next time, I guess. Snow White's route is next on the docket. I wonder what is going... He does eat apples, though. He does eat apples.
Well, thanks for the food.
As soon as he finished his dinner, Cinderella rose to his feet. What about dessert?
Just bring it to my room later.
Oh my goodness. Hold on. Kashikori marimashita, Goshojin-sama. Probably totally butchered that. I saw him off with a firm salute. Now it was just the two of us. With nothing to talk about, we continued eating in silence. Once I finished, I stacked my plate on top of Cinderella's. I glanced over at Kaguya to find him still slowly working through his food. Was he always such a slow eater? I thought back to all the other meals I'd shared with him. All I could remember was that he'd always compliment the taste no matter what he ate. Whenever I asked him for specific requests, he'd shrug his shoulders just as he did tonight. But when I asked him to help me brainstorm something simple, only then did he suggest fish sticks. And now that he was eating said fish sticks, he was progressing more slowly than ever. As I watched him, a thought occurred to me. Hey, Kaguya? Do you like fish sticks?
I do indeed.
Believe it or not, he actually seemed a bit bashful about it. There's enough for you to have seconds, you know.
What? Oh, right. Thanks.
No need to be shy. He stopped eating. What is it this time? Was it something I said? Or is he the kind of person who can't eat when someone else is watching? I thought about it for a moment, then decided to clear away the empty plates. Humming to myself to keep the mood light, I began washing the dishes in the sink. After a moment, I heard him start eating again. In spite of my relief, I felt guilty that I'd made him uncomfortable.
Sorry, Poppet.
Huh? His voice was barely audible. Why would he apologize? Had he wronged me in any way? I turned to find him standing there, holding his empty plate. You don't want seconds?
No.
Okay then, I'll wash it for you. Go ahead and have a seat.
Let me help you with the dishes.
He rolled up his long sleeves. And that was when I saw it. The dark red lines that ran across his arm like scratch marks. And I knew what they were. Ooh. Expression changed. Did we take the turn? Have we taken the turn in the route? But before I could say anything, he unrolled his sleeves again. Kaguya?
Got scratched by a cat, see?
I hadn't asked for an explanation, but he gave me one regardless. Meanwhile, I thought back over our history together. It only took a few seconds to arrive at a conclusion, either because I didn't have many memories to review, or because I'd always felt something was off with him. Kaguya, can I ask you something? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Well, that's, Well, I mean, he might be, but if he is, do I want to confront him about it? The other option is more interesting, because I don't know what makes you think seeing scratches on someone's arm and like, do you have amnesia? That being said, though, the original story for Kaguya Hime, there is loss of memories involved. When Kaguya Hime goes back to the moon at the end of the fairy tale, they put like a cloak of feathers or something, a cape of feathers on her, and she forgets all of her memories with humanity and goes back to the moon. So, is there an amnesia aspect to our Kaguya? I don't know how we get there from the cuts on his arm, but that makes more sense than the "are you cutting yourself" ironically. So I think I'm actually going to go for the "do you have amnesia" option, which doesn't make sense in this context, but all the choices I've been picking don't really make logical sense, but it makes sense for the actual fairy tale. And if this is how they're going to implement this part of the story, that's going to be really interesting. I might be on the way to a bad end. I feel the other one leads more to a bad end, though. So I'm going to go with, do you have amnesia? By any chance, do you have amnesia? Oh, we're getting flashback time. Okay. Huh. Once upon a time, in the Looking Glass world, there lived a peculiar young man named Kaguya. He was blessed with mysterious charm, such that all the women of the world, rich or poor, fell head over heels for him. Oh my gosh, he's an Iki. Why would they feel so strongly for him, you ask? Naturally, his good looks were part of the reason, But more than that, it was his kindness. So he had the bunny mask when he was little, too. He was always smiling warmly, and he seemed to understand people better than anyone, even themselves. You see, Kaguya never made any selfish demands. No matter how afraid he felt, no matter how much he suffered, he always kept a smile on his face. He could never reject the ladies who wanted him. And so his list of lovers grew. Oh my god, he really is an Iki. 1, 2, 3, 4. Why, there were too many girls to count! But none of these relationships lasted very long. Each girlfriend started off madly in love with him, but would inevitably break things off just a short time later. And Kaguya would accept their feelings without protest. He never talked about himself either. Why, you ask? Because... So based on that flashback, does that mean you've had amnesia your whole life? But how does that work?
Yeah.
I asked him if he had amnesia, and his response was yes.
See, I can't remember anything is the trouble. I don't know what I've been doing, or who I really am.
Well now, that's a huge, important revelation. And yet his tone was completely casual. Frankly, I would have liked it if he told me this up front. Wait, but... then what about the lady who dumped you at the cafe?
Oh, her. I was wandering around town when she stopped me on the street. Long time no see, she said. According to her, we were in a relationship, but I couldn't remember. So I told her as much.
And she didn't believe you?
Thought I was taking the mick.
Now it all made sense. The reason Kaguya hadn't stood up for himself was because he couldn't remember dating these women in the first place. That and his naturally passive personality didn't help. But when do you lose your memories? Is this like a 51st date situation? And how much do you remember of our time together? Oh, it's every time the moon cycle happens! I'm calling it now. Each cycle of the moon, he loses his memories. Oh, wait. I've busted this case wide open. I busted it open. That's what it is, isn't it? And when the moon is full, and that's it. You're gonna forget me. Oh, no. How am I gonna... Oh. Okay, alright. I'm in. What about your name? Are you sure it's Kaguya?
Well, other people have been calling me Kaguya, so I just assumed it must be my name.
Oh. It was all so surreal. Like I was reading a romance novel that suddenly pivoted into suspense. Right? Then again, I suppose a lot of suspense novels have elements of romance in them, so maybe the inverse isn't that far-fetched.
You don't believe me, do you?
Do you believe him? Yes. I do. I actually do. I still think you might be cutting yourself, but that might be as a way for you to remember something from each cycle. Why you wouldn't just write yourself a note, I'll never know. I mean, you could have been scratched by a cat. I'll leave it at that, but I believe you with the amnesia, I do. What are you talking about? Of course I believe you. I gave him a look that said, "Who do you think you're talking to?" His eyes widened. I'm the one who put 2 and 2 together, you know. Are you really that surprised?
Right. Fair point. But how...
Are you asking how I figured out you had amnesia?
Yeah.
Well, at first I thought maybe you could read minds, but that wasn't very realistic. Okay, I was there too. Granted, part of the reason you're so incredibly perceptive is undoubtedly your careful nature, but I suspected you were more focused on yourself.
Myself?
Put simply, I'm referring to your self-awareness. Awareness of yourself. Awareness of the difference between yourself and others. Self-identification, the ability to recognize yourself. Let me guess. You constantly wonder to yourself, what does this person think of me? How will they react if I say XYZ? You're interested in other people because they interact with someone you're dying to know more about. Yourself. Oh, but to be clear, I'm not saying you shouldn't act this way. There's nothing wrong with it. Everyone does it to some degree. But in your case, I think you do it a bit excessively. Of course, if it was just that, we could call you self-conscious and be done with it. But in your case, you're a little too good at reading people. Your intuition is too powerful. Granted, plenty of people are hyper-focused on the people around them, but that doesn't mean they aren't self-centered. No, they just lack the confidence to express it. As unstable as they may be, they have a firm sense of self. What bothers them is the inconsistency between how others view them and how they view themselves. This sort of person tends to let their imagination run wild. Oh, this person must think XYZ, and so on. They make a lot of misguided assumptions. But in your case, you don't make any assumptions, right or wrong. You don't try to read into anyone's behavior. You just sincerely want to know what they think of you. And that makes me think maybe you're searching for clues about yourself. That's not all, either. You always default to other people's opinions. I did notice that, and I was like, this boy never, like, he never has an opinion on anything. He doesn't make a decision. He doesn't talk about his wants. He doesn't have a home. Like, he was homeless. I'm just like, you're a blank slate. You really are. And now it makes sense with you having amnesia. You're completely passive. But it's not that you lack confidence. You simply don't know what your personal opinion actually is. And that's how I decided you might have amnesia.
You're very clever, aren't you, Poppet?
You can call me Detective Eureka.
Does it make you uncomfortable?
What? Why would it? I stared back blankly, baffled by the question.
Kinda weird, isn't it? Dating a bloke who doesn't even know who he is.
Ah, don't worry, I've been on the other side of the equation plenty of times myself. It'll be fine. What? No, not at all. Why would you make me uncomfortable? You're my boyfriend.
Yeah, but I've been keeping so much from you.
Could he be lying about his feelings for me? The thought made my chest tighten. After a long silence, I spoke up again. Kaguya. What's your next move? I feel like all of these answers are dangerous. I feel like I'm in that minefield of the 14 bad ends I was talking about at the beginning of this, where I'm like, each one is like the potential for things to just in my face. So I'm like, okay, I've made it this far. I'm going to assume continue to just don't hear no evil, see no evil. Just keep on. Keep on with the present system. Just keep going. Ride the waves. Whichever way they go. Don't rock the boat. It'll be fine. Maybe. I will stroke his hair like he does to me. Maybe it'll help him remember something. I don't know. Silently, I gazed into his eyes.
Poppet?
As I reached out, Kaguya flinched slightly. It's okay. It's okay. I offered him a reassuring smile. There. That's a good boy. and stroked his hair. My heart, that's so cute. He didn't try to stop me. As I ran my palm over his head, I stared directly into his eyes. Like the moon, they seemed to shine. Normally, you're the one who does this to me, but now it's your turn. How is it? Nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought so. I ran my hand over his head one more time, then pulled him into a big hug. I can't imagine how hard it must be for you.